please subscribe and click on the little notification bell so you don't miss any of my future videos. Who wants pecan pie? It's a really easy recipe. These are the ingredients you're going to need. 4 eggs, Karo Syrup, which is a corn syrup, and you can get it online in Switzerland. You might be able to find it at a different shop as well, but something I've never been able to replace it with anything. I think you could possibly use Lau's golden syrup, maybe honey, but I'm not really sure. So if you can find any kind of corn syrup like this is the best thing. It really gives it a really good texture. Brown sugar. Now this is the brown sugar that's very soft. You'll see it when I'm putting it in. Salt, pecans, melted butter, and a special ingredient. You don't have to put this. I put whiskey or rum in it. That's my own thing as well. Oh, and also normally I would use a short crust pastry, but last time I used a puff pastry and I think it was so much better. So we're going to do puff pastry today. So I always buy my puff pastry, if I can, frozen, and I always have it ready for me in the freezer, which is great. And I just was thawing it out. Okay, so I put the oven on 200 Celsius, which is 400 Fahrenheit, and I'll put it, cook it for about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to turn it down to 170 is 325. So it's pretty easy. I am going to put 4 eggs. So it's 4 eggs, just lightly put together like that, and then you're going to do 1 cup of sugar, so 1 cup of brown sugar. So it's very soft. You see, it's like squishes together. So you're just going to mix those together, and then we're going to use the Karo syrup. Oh, I forgot vanilla. That's what I should put in here too. Salt, about, I guess it's about half a teaspoon. Salt, butter. That's about 1/4 of a cup of butter. Of course, the recipe's below in the description. Okay, so you just want to mix it together so that the butter mixes well with it. Has to be melted though. Whiskey. I know I've got my measuring cup out. I haven't even used it. I'm just eyeballing this, but the recipe's below. So a swig or 2. If you find that if you made it too liquid and you're pulling it out of the oven and it looks like it's still too jiggly in the middle, then you just put it back in the oven for a little bit. It's not going to hurt it. Like a half a teaspoon of vanilla. There we go. So that's finished. And all that's left to do now is chop up the pecans. So I like to keep out 12 nice pecans so I can decorate, and it makes 12 portions. So I'm just going to keep those out separately. So I find that if I don't chop these really, really well, the problem is that when you're cutting the pie into slices, it's going to sort of rip the slice, so it's not going to make a nice slice. So you kind of do have to chop them up relatively well. And like I said, normally I would put a layer of chocolate chips in the bottom, but I don't know, sometimes I feel like it adds something to it, but right now I'm feeling almost purist, except of course I add the whiskey to it as well, which I really think it gives it a really nice flavor. And I've also got a nice rum that I like to use as well, but I've just run out. With the last pecan pie I used that, but you can use anything that you think will go with pecans or anything sweet. So I'm giving these a nice chop. Make sure you don't want them too fine. I don't like to put them in a blender because then it makes them into like a cornmeal. It's really too fine. So I'm just looking for any that are kind of big, and I'm going for those. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's do one more like this. There. Okay, and you're going to let's get this rolled out now. There we go. That's looking good. And I kind of like leaving the paper underneath it because I find it easier to serve. But if you don't want to leave the paper, you can just pull it off. It makes sometimes from sticking too much around the outside. So I'm just doing a rough paper chop. So this is real time at the moment. So here we go, all the way around, just below the surface here, there, and then you can, everyone has a different way of doing the crimping. Some people like to turn it over the top. I like to go from behind, and then I use my fingers to do a scallop edge. But some people like to use a fork to make a pattern around it as well. But I think because my grandma, the one from Tennessee, she always made her pie crust with her fingers. And I always thought that made it taste better if it has it like that. So now ideally I should have taken this out of the freezer and put it in the refrigerator yesterday, and it would have been perfectly thawed out. So I'm doing exactly what I shouldn't be doing, but I forgot. And I've got people coming over tomorrow, so I've got to make this right now. And it's a little bit cold in spots and too hot in others, which is not good for puff pastry. But it thaws out pretty quick, as you saw. Okay, so I'm just giving it like a second fold over layer. And now I'm going to go around and do this. This is the pattern that I like to use. So there. Just making it into scallop. I don't know, I think it looks pretty like that. Like I said, everyone has a different way. Some people like to take a fork and press the tines. I think the fork has a tines in it. If you know the answer, put a comment below. And thank you very much for watching my videos. I've got a lot of playlists. I've got the recipe, obviously. I've got these in the sweet playlist, and I've got a savory playlist, and I've got collections, and I've got inspirations. I've got my Invisalign playlist as well, so if you're interested in any of those things, I've got tutorials for my crafts. I have a shopping one as well. I live in Switzerland, and so I take you around shopping, and I take you into the supermarkets and the hardware stores, and I show you what we can buy here as well if you're interested in that. So you might live here, but if you're not living here, you might just be interested to see how people in Switzerland have their shopping. Okay, so this is just the bits at the bottom, all the pecans there, spread out evenly. Then you take your mixture, you pour it over the top. Let me get my spatula. Make sure I get it all out. This is so yummy because the butter and the whiskey, so good. So let me just make that even there. And then you put these around like it was a clock face. So 12, 3, 6, and 9, and then you add in the other ones in between. And that helps you when you're cutting it as well, to do 12 portions. And everybody gets a whole one. And those are nice because they're going to get nice and toasty in the oven. There, it's ready. I'm going to put it in my oven at 200. It's been preheating. And I'll leave it in there for 10 minutes, and then we're going to turn it down to 175. Okay, so in 10 minutes, I'm going to put down to 175. This is what it's looking like, looking good. And then we'll leave it for another 25 minutes. And if it doesn't look good after 25 minutes, I'll put it a little bit longer. Okay, it's been another 25 minutes. Let me just give it a wiggle and see. I think that looks good. So that's the finished product. You can hear it sizzling. It smells really good. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and click on the little notification bell so you don't miss any of my future videos.